hopefully you can all see that. Yeah, so that I can now only see a few people at the bottom of my screen. Okay, so can everyone see that? Yeah. Okay, so as I say, please use the chat pane as well to add in any comments. So this whole session is part of a series that I put together about positive psychology in swimming. Okay, so psychology, for those of you who don't know, is the study of the brain, the study of behavior, the study of the mind, all of that kind of stuff. And it's something that I've been doing for a very, very long time. And I like to combine my swimming coaching with my psychology, because as I say, I think the two are really closely linked. And I think the better they are linked together, the more successful your swimming will be. I'll try not to bamboozle you too much with a whole load of scientific stuff, but there's a great study that was done with the New Zealand All Blacks rugby team many years ago. They were having a pretty bad spell, and what they decided to do was that instead of focusing on all the skills of rugby and all the, the measurements and all of that stuff, what they decided to do was to try to improve their well-being as a team, and that was what they focused on. And hey, guess what? Their performance went up through the roof, because they were all starting to feel that they mattered, that they were important, that they were valuable, all of that kind of stuff. So that really helped. So again, I'll stress that again. I think it's really important for you as a swimmer to be happy, to be healthy, to feel contented in your swimming, because if you are, I think that will improve your performance. And that's partly one of the goals I think that we're trying to achieve in swimming. So that's what this session is all about. Here are the aims. I don't want to make this too much like school, but here are the learning intentions. I want you as swimmers to understand what it's like to be a swimming parent. Okay, your parents as well as your coaches are, pretty influential people in your life, and they can help you to develop your swimming in so many ways, and we know that they're absolutely vital for how your swimming goes and progresses. So I think to understand them is quite important. Secondly, for those parents who are here today, thanks for being here and joining us. I want to help you to understand what it is like to be a swimmer. And as I say, if your parents are not here with you today, that's okay. You can use this material afterwards to have those conversations, because it's just the start of a conversation. Now, even for those parents who were swimmers, and there are some coaches here as well today, I know, who almost certainly would have been swimmers. It's very important to remember that your experience as a parent might not might not be the same experience that your swimmer has. So even if you were a swimmer, your experience might be very, very different. So important to bear that in mind as well. And most importantly, I think today's session is to help swimmers and parents talk to each other. I know that sounds like a novel idea, but it's really important to open up that communication between swimmers and parents, because I think that will help improve everyone's well-being and swimmer outcomes. So if you've got happy parents, you've got happy swimmers, I think you will have successful swimmers. That's my view. So I'm going to try this YouTube video. The last time I showed this YouTube video, there was no sound on it. If that's the case, it doesn't matter. Okay, it's really not important, because what's important here is that you try to work out. It's a card trick, okay, and your job is to work out how the card trick is done. And if you're there with your parent, I'm interested to see whether the swimmers or the parents are best at working out how the card trick is done. So as I say, if it doesn't have any sound, don't worry about it. It's not a problem, because you don't need the sound. Just watch very carefully what's happening, and fingers crossed it'll work. Okay, as a burger, that's obviously the advert. So just ignore the advert because we're not here marketing burgers for you, but there's not much I can do to stop the advert. So, okay, have a look at this. Okay, we're not getting any sounds, so it doesn't matter, but you've got some subtitles, so just watch, see what happens. Sorry, it's like a slow motion video here, but still not important. See if you can work it out. Okay, so I'm just going to pause it there for 2 seconds. If you've got your parent there, you might want to turn to them and say, I think this card trick was done this way. If a parent thinks they can work it out, if you can just see if you can share that with each other just for 1 minute. Okay, that's good. I can see some people chatting away there. Now, I have to be very honest with you, a typical psychologist, I've been a little naughty because actually this is really nothing to do with the card trick at all. So watch. So now we're showing you a different view. I'm seeing Amber there laughing away at this. You've been caught out by that one, Amber, I think. Okay, we'll come back to the presentation. Obviously, what was happening there was a whole load of changes going on, and no one, very often, very few people notice what the changes are. And it's a thing in psychology, it's called inattentional blindness. And you know, it's that thing that when you're walking along a street and then you see someone and they're right in front of you, but they have to kind of wave at you to say, here I am, because you've looked right past them. Now, I say it's interesting because two people can look at exactly the same thing and see something completely different. So, you know, you as a swimmer and you as a parent might look at the same competition, you might look at the same training, the same experience, but have very, very different views on it. I'm going to ask you one more thing. When they were showing you how the things were changed during the card trick, how many of you spotted the gorilla sitting in the background? Okay. Anyone spot the gorilla? No, I can only see a few people, but it'd be interesting to know, sitting in the corner at the back was someone in a gorilla suit. And if you Google after this event, did you spot the gorilla? You'll see some more fantastic examples of inattentional blindness. So as you go through this session today, what I want you to be thinking as a swimmer is, how do I see things and how do those things affect my swimming? And as a parent, I want you to think about, how do I see things and how does that affect my swimmer? Now, it's some very important rules for this event. At no point do I want anyone to be pointing the finger, you know, that's you, that is, yeah, that's you, that's you. No blaming, no negative. This is all about positive. It's meant to be light-hearted and a wee bit fun, but also hopefully to get you thinking about some of the things in swimming that might actually affect you as a swimmer and your relationship with your parent, and so that whole swimming experience. So I hope that makes sense to you. So that was activity 1. Here's activity 2. What I'm going to show you is a whole series of slides. Now, it's entirely up to you if you want to put your camera off at this point. You don't want anyone else to see what you're doing. But when the slide says, swimmers might say, the more you agree with that statement as a swimmer, the more I want you to nod your head. Okay? When the slide says, parents might say, I want parents to do the same. The more you agree with that statement, the more I want you to nod your head. No comments, no speaking, no challenges, no nothing. It's just to open up those that bit of thinking about swimmers and parents and some of the things that affect us. So here we go. Sorry, the GIFs and the videos are not working terribly well. So, you know, if you're a swimmer, and what I'm saying here is, sometimes the thing that really matters to you when you're in training and when you're in competition, and then someone says something that's completely unrelated to that. So, you know, you've got, your hair's a mess, your head's sore, you're putting on this tight swimming cap, and, you know, that's the least of your worries. And then somebody says to you, why are you not wearing your cap? Really? So that's the swimmer one. Now time for the parents. Again, I wonder how many parents are nodding. I'm a swimming parent as well, and I would have nodded at that one quite a lot. So, you know, I guess if you're a swimmer, how many things do you think, how many bits of equipment do you think you might have lost over your swimming career? How many bits of equipment do you think you might have left on the poolside over your swimming career? And what's your response to that? And I'm seeing some people hiding and looking really shamefaced at the moment. Oh no, it's me. Yes, another pair of goggles. So, okay, next one. Okay, so are your parents nodding like mad here? Or are they nodding quite gently? I don't know. I'm going to ask you to put something into the chat. Okay, and this is for the swimmers. Okay, swimmers, if you can put into the chat, how much do you think your swimming costs per year? So I'm going to give you a clue, because obviously there is no right answer to this, but I want you to think about it. Your club fees, your competition entries, your kit, your petrol to get you to competitions. What else could I say? So we've got £1,000 a year. We've got between 200 and 400. 700, 1200, any advance over 1K, 15, but they're all coming in now. They're all coming in now. Okay. So, oh wow, we've got 3,000. I'm going to pin on 3,000. Tegan, you've got 3,000 there. Wow. Okay. Okay, can stop that one now. Now the simple answer to that one is I don't know the answer to that one. I wonder if Scottish Swimming know the answer. I don't know. It would be really interesting to have that discussion with your parents, because that kind of links back to leaving your goggles in the poolside. You know, parents make a lot of sacrifices for their swimmers, and we do so because we love our children. That's why we do it. But it's an important thing to be aware of. Now, we're not saying that you should worry about it or you should be nervous about it, because that's your parents' job. But again, it's just something to be aware of in terms of your own swimming. So, next one. Again, as a swimmer, are you nodding a lot? Are you nodding a little? I don't know. Okay, so parents, you know, your swimmer comes home, they've done, you know, 3,000 meters of 100 butterfly sprint on 130. You haven't eaten for ages. You've had some ridiculous sweet juice on the poolside, and you come home and dinner's not ready. Okay, so again, thinking about that swimming experience, what is your swimmer, depending on their age, what's their training load during the course of the week? What does that mean for everything else that goes on in their life when they come home? Okay, parents. Okay, are your parents nodding? Are they shaking their head? Are they saying, yeah, no problem, 5 o'clock sitting outside the pool? That's great. I love doing that. I cannot wait to get up in those winter mornings and get you to training. I don't know, but again, just something for you to be aware of as a swimmer. Okay. Okay. Again, I'm seeing quite a few nodding heads going on there. You know, so swimmers are, I think, in some ways a very different breed, and how you interact with your friends, and you know, what if your friends are swimmers or non-swimmers, does that make a difference to your experience and so on? Okay, for parents. Again, you know, I certainly know, as a former swimming parent of a young man who would come home and want to eat the most ridiculous things because they had been training. So, you know, how does that work with your own nutrition and so on? Okay, and for swimmers. Okay, again, maybe some of your friends, they do other sports, and maybe do a couple of hours training a week, and maybe a 90-minute game on a Saturday. Not in your case, however many hours of training you do, and then a competition that can last all Friday evening, all day Saturday, and all day Sunday, and then up on Monday morning for school again. So again, think about that experience that swimmers are going through in terms of their training. And again, I'm seeing some nodding heads going on there. This is one for coaches as well, and I'm very conscious too, as a coach, that sometimes I throw out lots and lots of things to swimmers, and I just expect that they'll all understand it, when in fact they're absolutely confused and have no idea what's going on. Okay, just a couple more. Oh, do that one again. One for the swimmers. I very rarely, and I suppose this is with the coaches in the pool here, I very rarely give instruction to swimmers when they're in the middle of the pool, because I'm not entirely convinced that they can always hear the subtleties of that, because there's lots of noise in the water and their heads in the water and so on. Okay, so that's the first. I hope that's got you starting to think as swimmers and parents. What are the issues here? What are the things what's it like to be a swimmer? What's it like to be a swimming parent? And how can we better communicate with each other to support each other in this job? Now, this next one, again, please don't anyone be offended by anything that's up here at all. It's light-hearted and a wee bit fun. And now I definitely don't want any head nodding or any pointing or anything like that from anyone. But I want parents now just to take a wee moment to think about whether any of these, now these are stereotypes, they're caricatures, they're the most extreme you can get. And probably, I mean, I recognise myself as a former swimming parent in quite a few of these. And we know you want your swimmer to do the best you can possibly do. But what I want you to think about is if you're on a poolside, and probably this is more likely a competition, if you're on a poolside and you're demonstrating these kinds of behaviours, what's the effect that potentially might have on your swimmer? Now, I say I don't really want any discussion here between parents, because it's too easy to kind of start pointing the finger and say, yeah, that's you, and that makes me feel. But that's the kind of thing that maybe after this, you can go away and you can have that conversation and say, do I do that? Is that me? What does that make you feel? How does that affect you? So here we go. And I say, apologies, don't take it personally. It's a wee bit of fun. So here are the 7 parents you might see at competitions. First of all, you get Captain Obvious, right? Shouts, swim faster, kick harder. And I've done that myself. I mean, really, swimmers in the water, and they never thought for a moment to kick harder. Now, we know you're being encouraging. We know that. But how far does that go before that becomes, I suppose, problematic? Second, Dr. Thoughtful. There's some parents who seem to know everyone's PB. I was at a competition once as a parent sitting up in the gallery, and my son had just done a swim, and a parent turned to me and said, it's 3 seconds outside his PB. I didn't know that, but she seemed to know that. Now, again, it's important to keep yourself informed of what your swimmer is doing, but is there a point at which that becomes too much information? I don't know. Just for you to think about. Mr. Positivity. No negativity, no matter what. Nobody noticed that your cat was upside down. Now, as a psychologist, I think it's very important to be positive. I think positive is really, really important, but not so that it becomes meaningless. Okay, sometimes life throws difficult things at us as well. So we need to be able to handle those just as well as positive. And, somebody who spends the entire day, cheesy grin on, that's a tough one to manage. Now, again, parents, I know you want to support your child as best you can. You want to really encourage them, but if you're standing up there and your face has gone purple and you're absolutely about to explode, what's that making your swimmer feel? What's that making your swimmer think? So again, just a bit of fun. And again, Mr. Tomato, keeping it all in, getting really angry, it's not working, that other swimmer moving in front of my swimmer, what's going on here? Again, what's the possible effect there on your swimmer? And then, of course, you've got the other extreme, nervous, worried, edgy, jumpy, can't relax. What's that making your swimmer think? Judy Murray, Andy Murray's mum, the tennis player, has often said that the reason she sits at competitions and she very rarely expresses any emotion is because inside she's absolutely terrified about what's about to happen to Andy. That's what I've heard her say anyway. And so she tries to keep that emotion to herself. Now, that's her way of doing it. It won't necessarily work for everyone. And then finally, and again, apologies, parents, no intention to be cheeky or naughty here, but how many times have you heard this phrase, leave the coaching to the coaches? And as a coach, I think it's really important, even if you are a coach, and I was my son's coach for quite a while. Sometimes I had my coach hat on, and other times I had my dad hat on. And I often would say to parents, your role as a parent is to unconditionally love and support your child. It's not to coach them. That's the coach's role. So if things don't go well, that's me. That's my job. I have to be the big bad wolf who tries to kind of fix that and put that right. Your job is that support. So we've done that for parents. Let's now do the same for swimmers. Okay, so here we go. And again, no parents pointing, please. Yes, I recognise that. That's you. So here are the 7 swimmers you might see at competition. Now, also swimmers, please don't be pointing to anybody and saying, yeah, I know that person. That person's in my club. No mention. Miss me. It's about me. Me. It's all about me. Again, how does that potentially affect what your parents think? If you're always saying it's about me, it's me, what are your parents going to do to support you best? How can they know what's the right thing to do? Now, we often see that. It's that kind of, excuse me, I think you'll find I'm next off the block because I'm bigger than you. So again, if you've got that kind of, is that real? Is that, do your parents have to just kind of take that for what it is? Or are they, are they able to kind of go a wee bit beneath that and see what's going on? Again, if you're the kind of swimmer who's always saying to your parents, why have I not got the best kit? I remember, I don't know if you'll remember, the suits that swimmers had for a while, which were then, of course, banned, but hugely expensive. So you imagine, and that's back to that thing about leaving your goggles in the poolside every 5 minutes. If you're continuing to go along with that, I haven't got this year's outfit, blah, blah, blah. And again, that's an interesting one as a coach. As a coach, I would like when you're finished your swim, the first thing you do is you come to me and you talk to me and you get some feedback from me. You don't look up to the gallery to see what your parents thought of it. Of course, you want to know that they're there and you want that support, but bear in mind the different roles. And again, we want to do well as swimmers. We want to do the best we can possibly do. But how many times do we sometimes focus on that tiny one little thing that didn't go well, when in fact everything else went well? And if you're getting into the car after a competition, you've had a fantastic competition, except for that one thing, and you've got like the face is down here, right? What are your parents supposed to do there? Are they supposed to just point out, you did really well, you did this, you did that? How are they meant to deal with that? Okay, then of course you've got the person, it's a bit like the nail tour parent, when you're jumping about there and when am I swimming next, is my swim soon, what's coming up next, am I next, how are your parents meant to address that? And then a final one, Mum forgot to pack my goggles, right? Dad left my swimsuit on the washing line or something like that. Whose responsibility is it there for you to go to a competition or to go to training equipped? And if you're not taking on that responsibility, what's the kind of impact of that on your parents? So again, all of these things I hope will give you good discussion with your parents in a wee bit more detail further on to help you to understand the different roles. that you have. Okay, so I'm going to get you to do a wee interactive activity now. I'm going to give you a few minutes to do this, just looking at the time. So probably 2 or 3 minutes. You've got some qualities that are probably important for swimmers and or parents. And what I'd like to do is put them under one of 3 headings: important for swimmers, important for parents, and thirdly, important for parents and swimmers. Okay. Now, given the time that we've got here, it might be good just to choose a couple of these. So which of these do you think are really important for swimmers to have, are really important for parents to have, are really important for swimmers and parents to have? So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to do that one. Feel free, again, please put them in the chat. You can just put parents, caring, swimmers, determined. I'm not giving you the answers here, I'm just suggesting. Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to do that one. I'm now scrolling through all the pictures. It's good to see some parents and swimmers having chats there. That's what this is all about today. Lucy's a bit tired, I think. Okay, let's have a look in the chat, see what's coming up. Okay, we've got swimmers, determined, hardworking, learns from mistakes, wants to improve. Everyone, anything you think there that both swimmers and parents need to have? Understanding, parents and swimmers, yeah. Supportive of others, I like that one, Daniel. And yeah, David, we're coming up with supportive there, good, Evan. Working with coach, swimmers and parents, yeah, I'm sure all the coaches like that one. Madeline, understanding realistic expectations and understanding, that's good. I wonder if these are probably those, the top ones. Interesting to know. Hardworking. Learning from mistakes, rising to challenges. Dedicated, yes, I like that. Archie, you put that in for both. Dedicated, that's a good one. Okay, again, that's the kind of thing that I think, after this, you can maybe take away and sit down as parents and swimmers and talk those through in a little bit more detail. What are the ones that really need to be up there? What are the ones that will help you to do the best you can possibly do in swimming as either a parent or as a swimmer? Okay, and we're still getting some stuff coming in there. That's great, super. Okay, so the very last activity, and I do in fact have this t-shirt and I work all day looking after education in Scotland, and it's quite a nice t-shirt. So the very last thing I'd like you to have a think about, and again, just give you a wee while to have a go at this. Now, you're not going to have time to do a full poster. We've got 10 minutes to run, but it's the kind of thing you can go away and create for yourself, for parents and swimmers. So if you've not got time to do the poster, that's okay. If you're the swimmer, what are the things you're looking for in the ideal swimming parent? What makes the perfect swimming parent? And for parents, what makes the perfect swimmer? So there's 3 things that you can kind of home in on there. How best can they help you to do your job? What should they do to support their own swimming? And what do they need to know about what it's like to be a swimming parent? Same for the swimmers. How can they help you as parents? What do they need to do? And what do they need to know to help you to know what it's like to be a swimmer? So I'm only going to give you probably 3 minutes just to think about what would you put in if you were going to do a poster on that one. And you can do that one after this event. I'm sure there's a way that you could share that piece of artwork with Scottish Swimming. We can say about that. So I'll give you a couple of minutes to have a think about that. Again, if you want to put anything in the chat pane around that, please go ahead. Good to see that dialogue. So a couple of minutes on that. Feel free to throw anything into the chat pane there if you think you'd like to do that. Daniel's got swimmer be ready with swim bag. Yeah. Wonder if that's the same bag that most swimmers, as soon as they come out of training, hand straight to their parents. Maybe that's not what you do. I don't know. From Phoebe, parents should be supportive, caring, and understanding. Lucy, I like that one. Believes in you. That's fantastic. I could go on at great length about all the psychology research about the importance of believing in other people and just how that affects the kind of interrelationship and your interactions with them. So yeah, Lucy, that's a fantastic one. I think you're going to be a psychologist in the making. Finlay, Summer, get up in time for the early mornings. Yeah. Amber, don't compare you to other swimmers. That's a really interesting one. Again, I could spend probably all day long talking about that. Sure, the coaches would do the same. I always say to the swimmers, your most challenging opponent is the one you look at in the mirror every day. And every competition you're there to do better than you did last time. You have no control over what anyone else's training is like, anyone else's experience is like as a swimmer. Daniel, got parents be positive. Archie, Summer needs to appreciate parents' commitment. Archie, that is just brilliant. That's the kind of conversation I'm sure parents would like to hear. And Evie, we've got Summers being responsible. Okay, so yeah, that responsibility thing is really an important one too. Okay, I'm going to close that now. Basically, I put this together, and again, this is not that these are the right answers or anything like that. But as I say, we will make a version of this presentation available to you at the end of the session. I'm going to take some of the pictures now, stuff out, just because I want to make sure they're all copyright compliant. So that's the kind of wee poster. I put that up in my swimming club to help parents to understand some positive pointers. So how can you support your swimmer to be the best they can be, to develop their health and well-being, but also to help to develop their performance. And I'm not going to say anything much about that other than, as a parent, when you look at that one, what jumps out at you as things that you might do currently, and you might think you currently do quite well, and or, right, maybe I don't do that one. So, okay, what am I going to do to develop that one? And there are quite a few things coming up in the chat there, showing care and concern and that kind of understanding and supportive, encouraging the swimmer to have a life beyond swimming, keeping swimming in perspective, models positive relationships. That's one thing I always went on about as a teacher, and I do now in my current job, and I did as a parent. Swimmers look up to parents, they look to you to model the kinds of behaviours that you want to see in them. So our modelling role, and it's the same for coaches, how do we model the behaviours that we want to see? I'm a great believer in that phrase, be the change you want to see in the world. So that one, that's for parents. And I say, when you get this presentation, you can have a look at it and have a wee bit more of a detailed discussion around it. So the ideal swimmer, likewise, same kind of idea. So the ideal swimmer, again, what leaps out to you as a swimmer around that? What are the things you look at and you think, yeah, that's me, I do that, or right, I don't do that one quite so much. So maybe I think I'll have a wee look at developing that. Don't try and change everything at once. That's not possible. Just choose something that you think, I'd like to get a wee bit better at this one, and then go from there. Okay, so I say we'll make that presentation available to you. I'm going to stop sharing now completely. So I say I hope that was quite light-hearted, and I hope it made you smile in a few places. I also hope it's made you think, as a parent and as a swimmer, about the relationship that you have and about how best you can support each other to help your swimmer to be the best that they can possibly be. I say I did this one for Swim West Lothian. It was here in my area. And some of the feedback I got from parents was we ended up talking about this for the rest of the day, the rest of the week, and we've gone back to have a look at some of these things and really have some conversations about them. So that's what I hope you will do. So if there are any questions, either please just unmute and throw something in, or put it in the chat pane, and I'll do my absolute best to answer it. I say, remember that this is just a light-hearted way to start thinking about that relationship between swimmers and parents. Don't take it as any kind of serious, in-depth psychological study or anything. So any questions from parents, swimmers, or maybe even some of the coaches who are here, feel free to put them in the chat, which I'll open up now, or if you want to just unmute and feel free to speak. And this is what in my work we sometimes call a tumbleweed moment.
Hi, Joe.
Oh, yes, good. Somebody's on muted. Sorry, carry on. I don't know who it is because I can't see him on the screen. But
it's Phoebe's dad, and I was just curious what your advice would be for the swimmers getting back to swimming again, and therefore the pitfalls that both the swimmers and the parents need to avoid in terms of their mental attitudes.
I would say probably to approach swimming as if we return in a manageable and proportionate way. And by that, I mean, don't expect for a moment that you're going to be able to pick up exactly where you left off. Okay, it's going to be something that will take time. You have a whole load of things to get back in to thinking about, both the kind of operational things. So, just that thing about managing your time and, managing your, making sure your kit's ready and all of that sort of stuff. So all those kind of practical things, getting up and getting to the pool on time and doing all of that sort of stuff. But when you're actually in training, I think it's to give yourself time to get back into the swing of it. Some of you will find it dead easy, I think. You get first night, just like you'd never been away. Others of you will find it potentially a wee bit more challenging. I guess the thing, from a psychology point of view, please remember that everyone is different, okay? Please don't judge yourself by what you think other people are experiencing. So you might get back to training and it might look very much to you as if somebody is much more comfortable than you. They've kind of settled back in, no problem. It's just business as usual for them, which might be the case, but of course it might not be. So don't focus on, I suppose, the other folks and how they're responding to it. Just slowly and carefully manage your own kind of transition, because it is a transition. You're doing a transition from not having done anything in the pool to suddenly, slowly, and I'm sure your coaches will be very aware. Scottish Swimming has been fantastic about providing guidance for coaches around how we support swimmers to kind of step by step, little baby steps, back to normality. It's not going to happen overnight. Don't know if that helps answer your question.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Anyone else want to unmute? Or I don't think there's anything in the chat at the moment. Oh, hang on. I think there is one. Let's have a look. How do you keep motivated? Okay. Gosh, motivation. Again, that could be a session in itself. I suppose my own view about that is, set yourself realistic goals. I'm sure you all use the kind of SMART approach to setting goals. So, specific, manageable, achievable, realistic, and, time framed, if you like. Think about what your goals are, and again, be realistic about what your goals are. You've had a period of time out, so you're going to have to get that back into that swing of it. For some of you, it will take longer than others. Your own motivation, that's a very, very complex area. But I suppose it's about thinking about why you do this in the first place. Often when people lose their motivation, they forget the kind of excitement and the real enjoyment that got them into it in the first place. And that can happen to coaches too, here I go again, I'm back on the pool side. But taking yourself back to that, why do I do this in the first place? What got me into this in the first place? What was the real kind of excitement that got me into swimming? And how will I get myself back into a position where that comes back? And again, my view is that that's a baby steps thing. As a coach, I want to see my swimmers do the best they can possibly do, best they can do. And if I see little examples of that, even one tiny little thing at every training session, that's enough to keep my motivation levels going. There's a great coach on motivation. It's a guy called John Woodman. And if you want to Google John Woodman, he was a basketball coach in the United States, a fantastic guy with some wonderful, wonderful quotes there. And one of the things that he said was, success is knowing that you have done the best you can do to become the best that you can be. Right? And I think that's a fantastic quote, because what it says is, it's not the case that everybody will become an Olympic gold medalist, but it is the case that everybody can do the best that they can do to become the best that they can become. So again, that would be my comment on motivation, but it's a complex area. There's an awful lot around it. Okay, anything else in the chat? Any other questions? I'm now conscious of run over a wee bit time, so apologies for that. Anything else anyone wants to come in with? No? Okay, so DRP, I did that a few years ago, and the swimmer that I had working with me was a guy called Duncan Scott, and I still get really excited when I see him on TV, and I think, yeah, he was our DRP swimmer all those years ago, and you know, I'm really looking forward to seeing some of you in those kind of positions, and you know, even if you don't get to that stage, just becoming the best swimmer that you can possibly be. So I hope you've enjoyed DRP. I hope it's been helpful for you, and I hope you've enjoyed this wee session today. If there are any questions that come up afterwards, obviously you've got your contacts at Scottish Swimming. You can pass those on to me as well. So Leanne, I'll pass back over to you. Thanks very much, folks, and the best of luck with your swimming career.
Super, thank you very much, Joe. If anybody has any questions they would like to pass on to Joe, just send me an email and I'll forward them on for you. Okay. I hope you've enjoyed DRP Day 4, and I hope you've enjoyed DRP this year. It's been different, but it's been really good, and I hope you've learned a lot as well. Okay. I hope you have a good day, rest of the day, and I'll let you go. Okay. If you've got any questions, feel free to stay behind. If not, all the best for getting back in the water.
Thanks all. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe, before you go, can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course. Who's that? Cameron? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Cameron Park. It's just when doing the presentation, did you have any worries at all, like you may be raising concerns in their psychology in that, like such as the money situation thing? Because you talked briefly about like how much money it costs, and I know from my past as well that my parents talked about money as well, and they got me slightly worried about my training in that, because it was a lot of money going to competitions and this, and I decided myself like to cut back in the competitions. Did you worry about that at all, like in any point of presentations that you're raising?
I mean, the whole thing, I suppose it's quite a challenging one. I guess, you know, I suppose I'm trying to kind of, you know, help swimmers to be aware. We did a thing in my day job, which was called the cost of the school day. And basically what it is basically about is, you know, what are those costs that young people face? You know, obviously, I say I work for the National Education Organisation, and you know, we're really looking at that, you know, burden on parents in terms of, you know, when you think about all the hidden costs of school, so your school uniform and your school trips and all of that sort of stuff. I was at a Scottish Swimming AGM a couple of years ago, and Duncan, you know, Duncan, who does all the commentating at the competitions, Duncan raised a point there, which was about, you know, swimming is quite a middle class sport. I think it's just a simple fact that it is hugely expensive. You've got pool time, you've got, you know, club fees, you've got all of that sort of stuff, and you know, the 27 years of secondary school teaching that I did was in schools that, you know, probably would be considered to be, you know, in areas of multiple social deprivation. And I was always really conscious that there might be some absolutely fantastic young athletes there, but there was no way that was ever going to be tapped into, because, you know, it maybe had, you know, not that parental support, you know, even not, you know, 2 cars to get people places, and we know that swimming is quite expensive. I do think we need to look at it as a swimming community. I mean, I worked in Edinburgh for most of my teaching career, and this is not in any way, shape, or form a criticism of any club or schools and anything like that. But when you went to the Edinburgh schools, it was hugely disproportionately independent schools who were represented at it. Now, there's all sorts of complex issues around that, but I do think as a swimming community, we need to think about, talent identification. How do we access, how do we identify those young people in schools who might actually be fantastic swimmers, but then who cannot do all that needs to be done to get them there? Because you know what kids can be like, in terms of who's got the latest gear and all that sort of stuff. So there need to be ways. I mean, I don't know, I wish I knew the answer to it, Cameron, to be perfectly honest. But I think there need to be ways, and it's about equity. And again, it's my national organisation. Obviously, we have the Scottish Attainment Challenge at the moment, and what we talk about is equity rather than equality. And I don't know if you've ever seen any of the kind of explanations of those, but one of them is a fantastic one. It says, equality would be that I gave everybody, a ticket to see the European swimming finals at Tollcross, right? That's equality. I give 3 people a ticket. But equity would be where I give the person who can't get there in a car, I get them transport to get them there. So that's equity. So just giving the ticket is one thing, but equity is, I suppose, it's a kind of positive discrimination thing to support, those young people who, who otherwise wouldn't get it. But as I say, and certainly in this presentation, interesting to see the figures that were coming out there. Anything from £200 a year, and I'm sure some of the parents would have scoffed wildly at that, to £3,000 a year. Now, I'm absolutely convinced that sport, it's funny, my son's a sports scientist and a swimming coach and blah, blah, blah. And when he did his masters weren't paid for. This was before they were paid for by Scottish Government. So guess who paid for them? Now, not for a moment was that an issue for us financially. We've only got the one son, but how many people would not have been in that situation? And how can we rectify that one? So, I mean, it's a really interesting one. Cameron, do you get any thoughts on it yourself?
Like, throughout my time in my swimming career, you do realise the younger I was, like, I did have concerns about it, but the older I got, like when I was 16 and started becoming older, I realised how much of an impact it was in the money problems. I mean, like, you're paying for like £300 swimsuits, you're paying for goggles that cost 40. Overall, like, on average, you're at least spending 1,500 up, I feel like, no matter what way you look at it. And it got especially difficult some other parts in life when my dad lost his job at a certain point. So he had to find another job in this, and then you realise that you cannot, in fact, your family's trying to show that they can't spend as much money at all anymore, but they still want to try and support you as best they can. And I have seen it more in when I swam, but now that I'm a swim teacher as well and a coach, I see it a lot more with certain swimmers in swim lessons. The family doesn't come from a good background. Sometimes they're well paid in this. They just want the swimming lessons and then go, and that's them done. But this kid could become talented. But
I mean, it's interesting, Cameron. It's the Christmas issue. It's another piece of research we did as an organisation. It's incredible how many parents get into massive debt over Christmas, because you do not want to be the parent whose child goes back to school and says, I got a walnut and a banana for my Christmas, kind of thing. You do whatever you can to kind of even the playing field for them. So it's a huge challenge. It's definitely one that I think we need to take up as a swimming community, and that's everybody involved, because if someone has talent, we should be able to nurture and build that talent, and it shouldn't depend on them having the financial wherewithal to do that. But as I say, again, I'm conscious even today, swimmers at this will be the swimmers who have the technology, who've got the broadband, who've got all of that. kind of stuff. And we faced that as a national education organisation. You know, how during lockdown has there been inequity between learners? You know, it's one thing to have, you know, an iPad. I mean, I'm sitting here, I've got an iPhone, I've got an iPad, I've got a laptop, I've got, you know, technology coming out my ears. But if you're a kid in a you know, family of 8 with, you know, there's one laptop at home, or there's an iPad, or there's a phone, and that's to be shared, and everybody's running about, and you're trying to kind of help them to learn in the same way as someone in a completely different situation, then, you know, that's a real challenge. So I wish I knew what the answer to it was, Cameron, but sadly I don't.
Thanks very much. That's all I wanted to ask. Thank you very much for that. Okay. Thanks very much, and I'll see you later.
Sure. Okay, thanks very much, Cameron. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, Leanne, I think that's us done in that case. Everyone's left the building. Difficult to do this kind of thing actually online, you know, because you don't get, I mean, I only had a couple of, you know, a kind of line of summers. I had this girl, Amber Edrington. She was great because she was laughing away at some of the stuff, and I was conscious, I kept looking at her, because she was laughing. I think, oh, that's good. You know, they're taking it, you know, funnily. I hope nobody gets back and says, you know, you caused problems in our household by making us have this conversation. That's the conversations I think they need to have.
No, I think it was really good. The emails I've had so far from parents as they've been trying to get people in, saying that the session's been really good and they've really enjoyed it.
Good. That's good. Well, I say it'd be helpful, you know, obviously, you know, maybe contact Alan and say, you know, it'd be good to get any feedback as well. Because what I've done is I've put together a whole series of these. I say I did this Masters in Sports Performance Coaching at Stirling in November, and very much a psychology focus just finished that November last year. And I'm now kind of thinking, what do I do with that? Because I'm not one to sit and say, right, that's great, I've got a Masters, you know, put that in the drawer and forget about it. And because, you know, I say I was a teacher for 27 years, I now work for Education Scotland, which is like Scottish Government's, you know, kind of education wing. So I don't have a class, I don't teach, and I guess I'll be missing the coaching as well, although we're back this Monday. And this kind of thing would be ideal, just to, you know, get young people thinking about those kind of, I mean, I'm not qualified to talk about biomechanics or how to improve your fly any more than any other coach, but I think I've got something to offer in terms of the kind of mind stuff. So I've got a whole series of these, and you know, you learn as you go along. Ideally, I'd love to kind of present them as a kind of regular thing for swimmers and coaches, because I'm convinced that we don't spend enough time. You know, I mentioned Andy Murray at one point. You know, Andy Murray is a classic case of somebody who had all the physical and tactical talent, but every time that's what let him down. And it was only when he started working with folks who started to be